The Mom View is brought to you by Moms for America in partnership with the Herzog Foundation, empowering moms and championing Christian education nationwide. There's been a dramatic decrease in border crossings now that President Trump is commander-in-chief. Joining us from Washington, D.C. today is border czar Tom Homan, plus some others to talk about our southern and northern borders. Those who are out to defeat the U.S. using our borders won't easily be deterred. So this, mamas, this is a fight that we must win. That's all coming up next on The Mom View. All right, well, welcome back to the Mom View. Hello, ladies, welcome.
Hi.
Of course, we have lovely Allie, Miss Kimberly, and we have our special guest today in the purple chair over there. Jillian Anderson King is on the set.
Thanks for having me, guys. I love this topic, so I'm ready.
Yes, let's go.
You are ready, and we've got so much to talk about today. We are talking about the border. I mean, there has been so much discussion about the border. We've got such great guests today, but in 2024, 5,000 people were crossing the border every 24 hours. Obviously, it was a crisis. Obviously, people voted for President Trump to help secure this border. What are your thoughts about this border and where we are now? We're seeing some good things.
One word, invasion.
Yeah, sure
That's
was.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. We're stopping the invasion.
Absolutely.
That's what's great.
Absolutely.
So, during the Biden administration, I just go back a minute and realize that the administration was 4 years.
Right.
During the Biden administration of 4 years, over 10 million, Tom Homan has estimated 20, somewhere between those numbers,
Right,
but
no one
there's
knows.
Millions,
Millions.
at least 10 million
Oh my
illegals
gosh.
came into this country. We have no idea where they are. We know that 3,000 of them are children that have been lost.
Yeah,
we know that
right.
families weren't really
300,000.
families.
300,000.
300,000. Did I say 3,000?
You cut
Yes.
that down a bit.
300,000. It's appalling. It's appalling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a real issue. President Trump, he did run on it. He said that he was going to make sure he closed the border and that he secured it. And we were going to vet the people coming in. And he is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, it was promises made, promises kept. I don't think we expected anything less. He knew exactly what the problem was. And in leading into this election in 2024, this was one of the top issues for both parties. It was one of the top issues. Everyone saw this was a problem because things were happening there in their communities. It got to the point where we know this very well. You didn't have to be along a southern northern border to be a border state. It affected every state in
Every
between.
community.
You know, in my neighboring community where I work, where I volunteer a lot, my children at the foundation, not my personal children, witnessed firsthand an illegal immigrant shoot a barber in the face.
Oh, wow.
A barber they were going to see to get their hair
These
cut.
people have got.
And I mean, illegal immigrants. I mean, it affects every
It has
single
become a
community
kitchen table
differently.
topic.
But I mean, you, especially as mothers, you want to live in a safe area where people are vetted, where criminals are locked up, thrown away. I mean,
That's not too
it was
much to
unsafe.
ask
It was
either.
terrifying between sex trafficking, the drugs, crime, the rape, the murders. Just so sad. This was a top issue for moms. I wrote about it.
Agreed.
The America voted on it. Trump is delivering.
And yet
Thank
the
God for
left
it.
is screaming due process for criminal aliens that have come across our border illegally. Yet, hang on, there should be no due process for criminal
They didn't
illegal
get
aliens.
due process when they came in.
Exactly. So there's no due process
No,
going on.
right,
It's
just welcome.
unconstitutional.
Just walk
I
in
mean,
the door.
Absolutely
how long
not,
would
full stop.
10.8 million trials take?
Forever.
Right.
We can't
It's
even,
impossible.
we're backlogged now because of COVID. Imagine putting that on top of our judicial system, which is already corrupt as it is.
So there's one thing I want to make sure and put out there because I just learned about this when we were doing prep for the show, that the Biden administration used an app called the CBP Open app. CBP One app, which allowed migrants to schedule appointments to arrive at a border entry.
Wow.
About 40,000 migrants per month were allowed to enter the United States with this app. But President Trump has relabeled the app and he has named it CBP Home. And now 5,000 immigrants are reportedly using the app to report when they are leaving the country. So am I the only one that gets excited when you see these Venezuelan gangs and criminals being loaded up on these planes and shipped out of our country?
That's what we voted for.
Yeah, that's exactly what we voted for.
And it's absolutely horrific. And I think to add to that, the DHS is moving forward to offering them pay to leave. Deport yourself, no criminal charges, and you can come back in right now. You can come back in the legal way, and here's $1,000 to do it. That in combination with these 4.5 million ankle monitors to track these people, to make sure they have curfews, they're not doing crimes, to know where they are, so when it's time to go, we can find them.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, it's amazing.
We've got so much to talk about. They're giving me the wrap. So I want to come back, save time for this. So coming up, Border Czar Tom Homan is going to join us from Washington, D.C. He's going to give us the latest on what's happening. Kimberly's going to talk with him. We've got a great show, so don't go away. We've got so much to talk about.
The Herzog Foundation exists to catalyze and accelerate the development of quality, Christ-centered K-12 education so that families and culture flourish. To do so, we've created comprehensive programs designed for Christian schools across the nation. One of those programs is found at readlion.com. The Lion carries news articles covering issues especially related to the education of children. These are timely, critical, must-read articles for families, educators, and leaders. Another program is the Herzog Foundation Institute, where we provide training for Christian educators led by national thought leaders in subjects such as marketing, donor development, and culture building. All training events are fully funded by the Herzog Foundation. And finally, with new Christian schools popping up all over the country, we've created a free online resource to help with the process. HF Schoolbox provides lessons and free mentorship to help launch groups navigate the startup process every step of the way. We're the Herzog Foundation. You can find out more at herzogfoundation.com.
Border Czar Tom Homan started working on the border in 1984, and now he says that the border is the most secure it's ever been. Well, last year, Kimberly had the chance to go to the border before it was secure. Tom's joining us from the White House, and Kimberly is getting the latest updates.
So, Tom, thank you for joining us today on the Mom View. Moms for America sure appreciates you.
Hey, well, thanks for inviting me.
So I want to just kind of give you a little bit of history, and also for the moms listening. I've been to the border. It was the first time was in 2007 with a gang of 14, and everything was all over the news talking about how they want to make everybody a citizen, and it was just a big conversation at the time, and a lot of the stories about what was happening at the border started to come out at that time. And I wanted to know for myself what was actually going on. So I went down to Tucson, Arizona, right on the border, Nogales, and I saw for myself, I saw the rape trees. I talked to moms on the other side of the border who were telling me that they wanted their men back. I was talking to women who had been trafficked across the border. It just story after story. I was only there 3 days. And then when the caravan of men were coming across the border in 2018, I went back and I took a caravan of moms down there, moms who could go down and talk to moms who are already there and hear the experiences that they're having. One of the things that everybody kept telling me when I said we were going to the border was be careful. They kept saying that over and over again, be careful. And I said, well, what about the moms and the families who are living down on the border all the time? And one of the things that they told me when I went down there was they don't stay here. They don't stay here. We're just a pathway now, and they're coming to a city near you. And then, of course, in the last 4 years, we have seen absolute unacceptable crime from people coming from Venezuela and other countries into communities and completely ruining those communities. So I just have to ask, you've been in this, you've seen the border, you've been in this position for a long time in various different capacities in protecting our border. What has changed? How have you seen it changed over the course of the last 20 years?
Well, look, when I started back in 1984 as a Border Patrol agent, so I've been doing this for going on 41 years. When I started in Border Patrol, I would say 95% of everybody arrested was Mexicans, Mexican nationals. I mean, I was lucky if I processed 10 OTMs a year. OTM means other than Mexicans. And it's vastly changed. And what really changed on the Obama administration, beginning the Obama administration, because it lacks the rules, and they found loopholes such as asylum, right? They can say a few key phrases, claim asylum, get released in the United States. Either they show them in court, don't show them in court, but 90% of them don't qualify. There's also they called onto the whole TVPRA, the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, which had a great meaning. I mean, the intention was good. Want to make sure children that were victims of trafficking were taken care of, but the cartels quickly realized that they can move children across that border and families across the border. We couldn't detain them because of various court decisions. So, between the weakness of the Obama administration on border security, coupled with Ninth Circuit court rulings, that the cartels study the law just as much as I do. They know it's coming, and they take advantage where they can, find loopholes. So it quickly came out of control, and we went from mostly Mexican nationals, vast majority Mexican nationals, to a vast majority of Central Americans during the Obama administration. Under the Biden administration, we saw historic numbers, at least 10.5 border encounters in the 4 years. Every year we saw a record, and they arrested people from 181 different countries.
Wow.
So fast forward, 1984 as an agent, 95% Mexican. Under the Biden administration, 181 countries nationals were arrested. So, like I said, I became angry the last 4 years because I woke up every day upset because we handed the Biden administration the most secure border in my lifetime, and they unsecured it on purpose. But despite of the border crisis that Biden created on purpose, as I'm speaking to you today, we had the most secure border in the history of this nation today. The data proves it. We've done even better than Trump 45.
This really actually excites me. It's why you're becoming the most my favorite man on the planet. The courage, the tenacity, the immovable strength that you have to speak truth, and nobody can deny it. You were the first person that told me. I don't know if you remember. It was back in 2019 when they were talking about the kids being tattooed and chipped and trafficked and fake families coming through, recycling children. And I was horrified. And then I talked to several different Border Patrol agents who told me the same thing. And the more and more I looked at what was actually happening with this open border, the more I realized that the United States government, through the policies that they laxed or implemented, we became the conduit for creating an industry for the most heinous atrocities against humanity. We created that. And what you are seeing now is the change. In 2019, I thought, well, at least, we don't have to worry about the border anymore. I was thinking all the, when COVID came and everything, that was my whole thing. At least we don't have to worry about the border anymore. And then of course along comes Biden, and it becomes so much worse. So basically, I guess what's happened is when President Trump was in before and implemented building the wall and these other things, Biden came in, undid everything. President Trump came back in, and it's like even better than when he was here the last time around. Would that be a fair statement?
Oh yeah, I mean, we use a lot of the same executive orders that he did during his first administration, but we went a lot further this time. We're down, 93, 94%. We're doing much better. I mean, like the numbers are unprecedented. I mean, if you compare it to the Biden administration, I was in a meeting this morning looking at the numbers, and for instance, on an average day under Biden, we saw over 1,800 known gotaways. Now, that's not a guess. These are images caught on video, drone traffic, sensor traffic. An average of 1,800 or more every day across the border and weren't apprehended, weren't captured, weren't fingerprinted, weren't vetted. They got away because the Border Patrol was so busy dealing with these family cases that Border Patrol wasn't on patrol. 70% of them were off patrol taking care of this overcrowding humanitarian crisis. So 1,800 gotaways a day.
So
you can be 1,800 a day. The gotaways, we went from 1,800 today's gotaways this morning. I looked at the number.
Yep.
36 from 1,800.
Holy cow.
The average apprehensions day, total apprehensions got as high as 15,000 a day under Biden. Total apprehensions today, 161. So this border is more secure than it's ever been in the history of this nation right now.
That is absolutely profound numbers there, right? And there's a word that you said, and that's known. So the 1,800 that were coming across, that was known. We have no idea how many unknown got away that we weren't able to find. And the amount of people that are in our country illegally is just absolutely insane, the amount of numbers. And then when we go in and we try to remove the criminals, the fact that we are fighting to keep known criminals and pedophiles in our country is absolutely abhorrent to me. One of the things that I recognized in 2019 is President Trump introduced a lot of solutions, but so did members of Congress. And there was something that I found out that Lance Gooden had introduced a mandatory DNA test. They were doing optional DNA tests. You could choose to do it and you could fast track through. They were offering it as a way to move through the line faster. And a lot of them were taking the test, which is how we realized that they were fake families and they were recycling these kids through. And I talked to two women who said, I was given these kids, I was supposed to watch them they said, you're the mom now, we're going to get across the border, because the families coming across were getting through faster. So Lance Gooden introduced the mandatory test. If you're coming across as a family, we want to know you're actually a family and not sexually molesting children, raping women, that you actually are a family. So my question is, has this become a mandatory procedure now at the border so we can protect these kids?
Yes, we changed a couple of things. First of all, the media's been pounding on me because I reopened family residential centers, and we're increasing the beds now. And they said, no, here's Homan separating families again. No, family residential centers is the opposite of family separation. The reason we're doing that is a couple of reasons. Number one, it gives us an opportunity to do DNA testing, make sure that child's with a parent and not a victim of trafficking. It also lets us drill down on other factors, make sure that this child's safe, make sure they're with somebody that's not a sexual predator or a trafficker. So DNA testing plus a deep dive into who this family is gives us time to make sure this child's safe. Unlike the last administration, who had over 500,000 children were smuggled in this country, and they lost track of over 300,000 of them they can't find. So we're going to fix it. Matter of fact, this morning, I looked at the numbers this morning in the Trump administration, we've already located over 7,500 of these missing children. And so we're going to find every one of them. I'm hoping the goal is to find every one of them. But yeah, DNA testing is a part of the process now. Family residential centers are coming back. They're not jails, they're not prisons. They were built specifically for families. They have child psychologists and pediatricians and family counseling, and they're actually a great place to hold a family while we make sure the family's a family. So yeah, we're making all the right steps. We're building upon the success of Trump 45 and adding more steps in Trump 47, because the numbers right now, the number of UACs in the last 24 hours, I think we're 21 coming across the border. We have 21. So that number continually slides down. We're down to 21 now. We want to get to 0. There's always going to be someone trying to get a child across the border, but now it's much more expedient. Unlike the last administration, where the Secretary of HHS was bragging how quick they release kids from custody. That's not anything to brag about. They released them from custody quickly because they didn't vet the sponsors properly. They didn't do DNA testing. They didn't go through all the things we went through. So it isn't about how fast this child gets released. It's about how safe is this child when they do release them. So we're concentrating on safety over time.
I am so happy right now. You have no idea. You almost brought me to tears. Nobody's was talking about those lost kids in the last administration. They were just losing more. Did I hear you correctly that you have found 7,500 of those kids?
Yeah, 7,500 already been contacted. Some were safe with family, others were not. I mean, just last night we had a 14-year-old little girl we found, 14 years old, already pregnant, living with 2 men that were trafficking her. Well, they've been arrested, they're being prosecuted, and we're caring for the 14-year-old. Not only her physical needs, but her mental needs. So, like I said from day one, some of these kids are going to be victims of trafficking. Some of these victims will be in forced labor. Some of these victims will be actually with families. So, I wish they were all with families. It'd be a better story to tell, but they're not. And President Trump's committed to work as hard as we can to try to find every one of these kids and make sure they're safe. And immigration consequences can come later. Right now, it's about their physical safety and their mental capacity and how we can help them overcome the tragedies they've seen and been through. But yeah, numbers this morning just over 7,500.
So have there been families that have stepped up and said that they wanted to take these children if they need homes? Have any families stepped up to do that at all? Is there a pathway for that?
Yeah, we're working on that. We're working with several NGOs working on that. Most of these children, we're trying to locate their parents if they're not with a parent and get them back with their families. But again, it's just not a matter of taking a child and handing him back over. We need to make sure whoever handing him over to is either a parent, a relative, a legal guardian, or if a sponsor needs to be totally vetted. Not just a sponsor needs to be vetted. Anybody that lives in the household needs to be vetted.
Right.
We don't want to send them to the mother. The mother's living with some guy who's been arrested for domestic violence or has a child predator charge, or there's another youth in the house that's MS-13 gang member. So we got to vet the entire household. So we're taking the time. We're doing this right. But at the end of the day, we want to be able to say, truthfully, we've done everything we can to protect his child and get him with a rightful family or a guardian.
So how does the border security personnel feel now? And do they feel confident that this is going to be maintained, or they fear a change of the guard?
No, I think we're on a phone call every day at 10 a.m. with leaders of several agencies. I'm on this call every day, drilling down on numbers. And the goal is, you got the best numbers in history of this nation. How do we get them lower?
Yeah.
I say many times when I saw me on the news, people always ask me, am I happy with the number of deportations? Well, I'm happy the numbers are 3 times higher than Biden on deportation, but I'm not satisfied because we could do much more. We need Congress to fund this mandate that President got from American people, because I won't be happy to every criminal, illegal alien, every public safety threat, every national security threat, illegal aliens is eradicated from this country. Then we got a lot of others. Then we got others before. So I'm
I
happy.
love that you
but
were
I'm
at the
not
helm
satisfied.
of this. You make me happy. Yes, we have a long way to go, but the trajectory has changed so dramatically in a short period of time. In fact, at the 100 days in office cabinet meeting, RFK Jr. stated, "We have ended HHS's role as the principal vector in this country for child trafficking. During the Biden administration, HHS became a collaborator in child trafficking for sex and for slavery. And we have ended that. We're aggressively going out and trying to find these 300,000 children that were lost in the Biden administration." I think that of all of the things that you guys are doing, that is the most incredible contribution that this administration is making. And the fact that you are at the helm, making sure that it's getting done, I know it will get done. I want to just bring up the cartels real quick, because now that they have been proclaimed by President of the United States as terrorist organizations, how has that changed? Has it changed at all with the interactions between the cartels and the Border Patrol?
Well, look, he has designated them terrorist organizations because I've had many conversations with the president even before he was elected about the need to do that, because these criminal cartels in Mexico have killed more people than every designated terrorist organization in the world combined, whether you want ISIS, whoever else, Al Qaeda, and the criminal cartels in Mexico literally killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. And so he did that. So what that does, that brings the whole weight of the United States government and these cartels. So another part of our daily talk about how we shut down the cartels. Now, President, I made a speech at the RNC before the election. When Trump became president, he was designating criminal cartels and wiping them off the face of the earth. And we're working toward that. Criminal cartels right now are going broke. Under the Biden administration, they made a record amount of money in sex trafficking women and children. A record amount of money is smuggling aliens. A record amount of money is smuggling dope, especially fentanyl, across our open border. Now that we have the most secure border in the history of this nation, we're hitting them where it hurts, in the pocketbook. When you hit them in the pocketbook, that means they can't buy off the Mexican military. They can't buy off Mexican law enforcement. They can't buy off Mexican government officials. And they spread, like the Jalisco cartels. They're in 45 countries around the world. So now they're terrorists working with every other country to eradicate those other countries. So we're slowly getting rid of them, because if they have no money, they have no power. But I think President Trump is committed to doing more. He's already asked the Mexican government to work with him to quickly eradicate them. Mexican government pushed back. We'll see where it goes, but I think Mexico needs to sit back and think about that, because Mexico has failed to take the cartels out for decades. It's going to take U.S. involvement, and we can do it. Like President Trump took ISIS out, took the caliphate out. You can certainly take these criminal cartels in Mexico out, but we'd like to do it with Mexico's assistance. Think for a moment. There's a lot of corruption in Mexico in the military, the police, government officials, and a lot of the corruption isn't even voluntary corruption. Some of these officials, you got a cartel member walks up to them and says, "You're going to allow to pass this load through this airport, and we're going to give you $10,000 to do it. And if you don't do it, we'll kill your family." So if we can take the cartels out, Mexico will be a much safer country, a more prosperous country. They won't have thousands of journalists, investigators, police, judges murdered by these cartels every year. So I think when Mexico looks at the long game, taking the cartels out of Mexico will make Mexico a much, much safer country.
Well, I can tell you, I have talked to mothers who lived there and had to escape, who would 100% agree with that, and they would welcome the opportunity to purge the cartels. I think that this comprehensive approach to securing our borders and protecting our citizens is absolutely incredible. The different parts of this, for enforcing the laws, building the wall, going after the cartels, protecting the women and children. This is probably the best news that I have had in a really long time. To hear you say, yes, it actually is happening. And anybody who disagrees with this for politics, they need to not be in office anymore.
I think what President Trump has done is a game changer. Like President Trump, you don't like him or love him. As a guy who's done this for 40 years, border national security, he's the greatest president of my lifetime when it comes to border security, national security, and immigration enforcement. And you know, I may be the head of some things, but I want to make it perfectly clear: the heroes here are the men and women in that green uniform on the border, who stand post every night while you and I are sleeping. 2:00 this morning, you're going to be sleeping. I'm going to be sleeping. There's going to be a uniform standing on a dirt trail, middle of nowhere, because a sensor went off. Something's coming north. They don't know if it's just a Mexican national looking for a better life versus a heavily armed drug smuggler. They don't know if they're going to stand there taken out. Border Patrol, God bless them. I was one of them. So I'm proud to wear that uniform. And to the men and women of ICE who are out there every day in the interior United States, taking these sex traffickers and porn, these drug traffickers and these like last night, these two men who had this 14-year-old selling her off, and ICE is out there every day, again, gun strapped to the hip. They're the American heroes. And especially this week, as Police Week, I can tell you in my career, I buried Border Patrol agents. I buried ICE agents. The most unfortunate thing I've ever done in my career is handing a folded flag to a child or a spouse of a phone. So I appreciate all the kind words everybody gives me, but I want to recognize the men and women out there doing the job. I'm working on the West Wing, right? I'm at the White House. These men and women are putting on the line every day for you, me, and the rest of the Americans. So God bless them, especially this week. So to your audience, I'm asking you to hit your knees tonight and say a prayer for these men and women, and make sure every one of them come home to their families, because too many have never come home, and we're celebrating them this week.
I could not even say that better. Thank you, Tom Homan, for being on the Mom View and for all the courageous things that you and the administration are doing to protect our border. Thank you, sir.
Okay. God bless you. Thanks for having me.
After this break, a White House advisor on border protection joins us to add his experience and expertise to the critical issue of border security. And we'll be right back.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as the Revolutionary War because we fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
The most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Mom-Led Revolution.
Well, welcome back to the Mom View. We are so happy to have Ron Vitiello joining us today. Now, Ron is with the Department of Homeland Security. In that department, he is a senior advisor serving with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. We know you're busy out there in Washington, but thank you for taking some time with us.
Well, I'm delighted to be on Mom View. Thank you.
You also told me that you have been praying for this job, and you have become so passionate about the border and our sovereignty of America. This is beyond a job for you.
It is really. I mean, I left in 2019 to retire after being appointed by the president to run ICE for a bit. Really enjoyed that, but it was time for me to go during that time frame. And then while we were watching what happened over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, and just terrible conditions at the border, terrible working conditions for the men and women that were on the front line. I started to help pre-transition, volunteering and helping during the transition, and then really felt called to come back to make sure that we advance the agenda of a safe and secure border, because America deserves that. And this president, has done more and will do more to secure the border than anyone in my lifetime. And I was compelled to come back. I really did pray about it, and my prayers were answered.
Can you talk a little bit about, I think it is 17,000 border agents that work on a regular basis, keeping America safe. What is their job like now? Tom was just saying that they're heroes in his book because we don't even understand the challenges that face them. Tell us a little bit about that, because obviously you know that firsthand.
So right now, last night, in the last 24 hours, we saw about 250 people try to enter the country illegally at the U.S. border between the ports where Border Patrol works. And so their job is to confront those entries, arrest those people, find out who they are and why they're coming to the United States. And so that's enough of a workload. But because of the investments and the agenda of this president and empowering the front line and giving them the tools to succeed, it was 250 last night in the 24-hour period. A year ago, it was well over 2,000 people that tried to enter the country in the same amount of time frame. So in that 4 years under Joe Biden, they were completely overwhelmed. They were not able to rescue people that were being trafficked. They were not able to significantly slow down the flow of illicit drugs that are coming in between the ports of entry, and weren't able to interrogate people as to why and where they were coming. The Secretary Mayorkas himself said that 85% of all the encounters at CBP were being released into the United States. And we know that some of those folks were terrible criminals belonging to gangs from all over the world, most specifically the Tren de Aragua gang from Venezuela and the MS-13 gangs from El Salvador. Terrible impact on communities all over the country, terrible impact on individuals like Laken Riley, Rachel Moran, Jocelyn Nongaray, targeted, hunted, killed, and tortured by these gang members that didn't deserve to be here, that weren't invited by us. They weren't looking for a better life. They were looking to take advantage of American citizens and did terrible things to these women. And so Border Patrol agents are standing between us and those people that are trying to come in. And so when you lower the volume, like we've done since the 20th of January, they have more opportunity to find out who those people are, keep them out of the country. And not only are they confronting those arrests, they're also prosecuting people. It's a federal crime to cross the border. So they're addressing those charges in the federal courts. We've established, CBP has helped the Department of Defense establish military areas in New Mexico and Texas. So if you cross the border in those locations, you're not only crossing into the country illegally, but you're entering a military base without permission. And so that's a federal crime as well. And so those charges are being addressed again by the U.S. Attorney's Office. And so agents do that work. And just to give you an example, when you're standing, like, well, I did this when I was a young agent, and young agents are doing it right now. When you're out in the middle of the desert at night and you hear a sensor,
I can't even imagine what this is like. Yeah.
Yeah. Or someone tells you, hey, there's a group coming across the border. You're between that group and their freedom into the U.S. or their whatever they're going to do in the United States. And so you don't know who they are and why they're coming until you confront them. And so the job gets really tricky sometimes. Sometimes it's a family looking for a better life. Sometimes it's smugglers. Sometimes it's people you have no idea what they're doing to themselves or others. And so that's the job of an agent, to confront those entries and then address them downstream and make sure that we vet them properly and we address their federal crimes. And then they're being removed quickly. The interagency is cooperating in a way that I've never seen it before. And so people are not staying in long-term detention. They're not being released into the United States. They're being prosecuted and removed back home in a very rapid way. And what that does, it stops the large groups from thinking that they can just walk across the border like they did for the 4 years under Biden.
This Operation Tidal Wave, what about that?
The CBP assisted an ICE-led operation with the state of Florida. You mentioned these jurisdictions that call themselves sanctuaries. What they really are sanctuaries for criminals who are also in the country illegally. I don't know why any politician would do that, but there's lots of them. There's too many of them that do it. Florida, on the other hand, is not. Many of the counties and states, or the county and the entire state, along with several cities in Florida, have signed up in the 287G program. What that is a provision of immigration law that allows state and locals to directly help ICE with a little bit of
so important,
and a joint deployment to go after criminals that are in their county jails, in their city streets. And so Tidal Wave was a targeted operation to go after those kinds of criminals in Florida with 100% cooperation with the state and many of the jurisdictions and with those arrests. I believe the last number I saw, about 1,100 people, targets were, the targeting worked very well. They arrested about 1,100 people who were in the country illegally and also had criminal records either here or in some other place. And so those 1,100 are now on a path for removal if they haven't already been removed from the United States. That's when it works really well. You have state, local, and federal all working
That's what we need,
to remove those threats from our society.
So that's what the administration needs. They need the states and the cities and the communities to help support, because there's only so much you can do from a high level point. And that's what I love about this story. And I'm in a state where they do sanctuary cities. I'm in Illinois. So, I mean, these are cities and states that are just defying President Trump's executive order. So I have another question for you, real quick. Can you give us an update on the fentanyl crisis that is pouring across the border, the northern and the southern border?
If we diminish the capability of the cartels to make money hand over fist, like they were doing in the Biden administration, because everybody that came up, those 11 million people that we encountered, they paid somebody to come into the United States, and they paid cartels to facilitate that activity. So we lower their capability at the border. We increase the capability of our patrol forces at the border. That allows us to seize more fentanyl, more cocaine, other narcotics that are coming across the border illegally. And so we're getting better at the targeting. We're getting better at understanding the pathways that these cartels use, and thereby protecting America a bit better.
Well, thank you, Ron. I know you are busy over there. You and Tom have stopped by the Mom View. We were so honored to have both of you to talk to us about the border, give us those updates. So God bless you. God bless your teams, and keep fighting the fight. We so appreciate you all.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, thank you. All right, moms, right after this break, we'll talk to a Texas mom who has seen firsthand how illegal immigration affects those in border states. Stay with us.
For the moms of Moms for America out there, Cardio Miracle really truly helped me out personally, and I could see that. But it also helped my mom out, it helped my wife out, it helped my sister out, it helped my friends out. I've really seen the benefits, and this is a time for healing our bodies, our minds, and our souls. And Cardio Miracle has done that for me, and I think it also can do it for our moms. Head to our link, cardiomiracle.com/moms for a discount and to get started today.
Debbie Georgatos is the host of the show America Can We Talk? Debbie practiced law in California before moving with her family to Texas. Now, as a Texan, she knows exactly how an open border has affected her state. Welcome, Debbie, to the show.
Thanks very much. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Well, we have lots to talk about here.
We do.
We've been talking with Tom and Ron, and we've all had our opinions, but you are right here from Texas. You are a lawyer by your profession, and you were just sharing with us about the lawlessness, about the how Americans actually are looking at illegal immigrants now.
It is a great question and great topic. Very specifically about Texas, and maybe your other guests that mentioned this, but there was it wasn't even a year ago, June of last year, there was a young girl, I think 12 years old in Houston, who sneaked out at night, probably not the first child ever to do that, and ended up being kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and killed by two Venezuelan illegal immigrants, people who had sneaked in the country. And, that is it's a horrible story. I happened to interview the mom on my show about that. But you begin to get a sense, the community does, especially along the border, a sense of lack of safety.
Right.
You don't really, there's always some concern in a big city about safety and crime, but it's changed everything in the big cities because it's not just Americans, and it is people you are unaccountable. We don't know who they are, where they came from, where they live. The police have a harder time finding them. So it's changed the way you feel living anywhere near the border, and even here in the Dallas area we live. There's a growing sense of just a presence of people who mean us harm.
So we say on Mom View and at Moms for America, all issues are mom issues.
Right.
And you bring up a very good point right there of how this affects mothers, children, families, that this is a mom issue. How is it affecting families within your community with the safety issues and other issues you guys have?
We happened in the Dallas area where we lived for 22 years. There was an incredible increase in crime right in this, pretty lovely area. These are single family homes and working parents and, parents paying attention to their families. It has been a significant increase in crime. Cars disappearing from the driveway, cars stolen overnight. It just to the point that many people, you don't feel. We've lived in Texas 25 years, almost 25 years. And the feel has changed in the last 5 years, especially in Dallas and city areas. You're worried about your vehicles. It's not just crime, like personal, whether you're to be physically attacked. It's the safety of your home and your belongings. It just has changed in the last 5 years.
Wow.
I've heard a lot of stories specifically from ranchers, them coming into their homes, knocking on their windows, they're finding bodies in their yards, and it just horrific stories. Have you talked to people who've decided like enough is enough? Texas is no longer my home.
Absolutely. Sadly, sad to report. Yes, I have. On the subject of the border families, I do know a woman who is a lawyer who grew up along the border, and she's actually of Mexican descent, but her parents came to America legally, had a ranch, and they went from loving to live along the border and had a ranch for years and years to moving away because exactly what you just asked about, finding people. It isn't just, it's bad enough to have them coming across your property. You find them, for whatever reasons, they pass away, but they're aggressive. There's a lot of aggression, knocking on windows, demanding to be let in. And people, there's just a sense that we can't get the situation under control. And you're frightened by the attitude that has kind of settled in among many illegal immigrants, which is we're entitled to be here and you need to cooperate with us.
Yeah, talking about about having it being a mom issue, could you explain to us the burden that Texas has experienced with the overcrowding of schools and the burden it has had on our law enforcement here in Texas?
Absolutely. It is a school issue, and a lot of these children arrive certainly not speaking English, which we have many students in Texas, America, who maybe English is a second language, but it has burdened the schools because the schools have to provide education for everyone who shows up. So it's a language issue. It is often these kids are not vaccinated. So, you have some concerns about whether they are healthy or whether they're spreading problems amongst the student population. And again, this burden is not just on language things, it's how much time teachers can give to getting to substance of what they're supposed to teach, because they're working on, is this child been fed? Is this child understanding what's happening? Do I have adequate resources? So it changes the whole culture of many public schools.
Do you see that also in the medical industry?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
And
honestly,
institutions?
I know, I read stories about, to be fair, I don't know personally, but I read stories about that just people, they don't have the same medical background. They often show up. In fact, they'll show up in hospitals needing kind of basic care, a thing you might go to your regular doctor for. They show up in the emergency room and they all have to be treated. And it ends up burdening the hospitals, the healthcare providers, and the citizens around there who might have otherwise used that hospital.
So my niece teaches school in Oklahoma, and she has been very frustrated because she has a class of 32 students, and she has several of them do not speak English as their first language and do not speak English very well. And now she's having to try and teach them English in addition to teaching the other kids. And it's very frustrating. And a lot of the teachers have the same problem, but they're afraid to say anything because then they'll get ridiculed or they'll lose their job. So there's a lot of bullying and intimidation that comes with this whole border security idea of, it's a culture shift, I think, is what's happened, not just for those coming to the country, but those who are here. You're like, oh, we don't want anybody to suffer. They're coming here for better opportunities. Even if they are, if you're coming here illegally, you will never experience the American dream like we will, because you'll always be illegal.
And we're not really in a
always
position
will,
where
and-
schools
yeah.
are so behind as it is.
Right.
We're not even in a
Excuse me,
position. Sorry.
You go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying our schools are already not in a position to be further behind for our children. We know stats across the country show that our kids need to catch up with learning, so that definitely doesn't help.
Could you speak to the burden or the abandonment of American sovereignty with this invasion?
This is my favorite question so far. I'll tell you, I'll tell you, I'm a lawyer by background. I've always loved that idea of sovereignty. It's just this basic idea that every country, we govern ourselves. And every country has that idea. And it's core to having an American identity. And when America was founded, this concept at the time, everyone who lived here, they were subjects to the king. That was your legal status. You're a subject. And so you're born under some monarchy and you are automatically obligated to them. America's founding switched that to the idea of citizenship. It's kind of contractual. You are agreeing. If I live here, I understand that I follow these laws. I can participate in choosing my own government.
Yep.
I'm not going to have to just randomly listen to a monarch change laws that I don't like. I can at least vote, advocate, whatever you do to be involved. So America has that really, it's a assimilation into not just our country and our people, but into our idea of government. And when you have not just a few people, but millions coming over the border and really being cared for a lot, unfortunately, by some in the system who coddle and encourage it, they're not coming here to assimilate. They're not coming here to figure out what is the American dream? What's the American process? How do we make laws? How do I participate? What are my rights? They don't know and they don't care. And so we don't have that assimilation into the concept of being a citizen. And we also have a big legal issue about whether or not people who entered America illegally and gave birth to a child, what that child's citizenship is. I can't wait. I really want the Supreme Court to rule on that issue, whether or not the 14th Amendment means if you're born here, you're a citizen or not. And there's a great argument that they're not.
And there's some legislation that's been dropped that I've got to be a part of that says they're not.
Right.
So that we don't know yet if that will pass, go to the Senate, or what that looks like. But yeah, that's been brought up a few times in the 119th so far about what that means. And a lot of the GOP does not want them to be established. We don't want that to be a reason that people cross. But back to your point, we did have a changing guard earlier this year when President Trump and his administration took over. He's done many, many things to secure the border. And we know that it's been the most secure border. So in Texas, being that this is a border area, what are some things that you've seen thus far and things that you're hopeful for?
Yes, I want to, first of all, say, yes, it is amazing. I thought one of the best lines President Trump said in his, I I think it was State of the Union speech, or he an early speech when he just said basically, turns out it was possible to enforce the border.
Right.
We didn't need we need a new president.
Right.
We needed someone who cared about enforcing the border. I love that he's done that. And I think it has changed the mindset. I mean, it's still a battle ongoing, but has changed the mindset in Texas. And I mean, all the actual contiguous 4 border states, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, touching Mexico, they're the ones who benefit from this. But every state's a border state, by the way. So all issues are women's issues and mom issues. Every state's a border state. But that concept of pulling back and saying we have sovereignty, we're a country, and certain rules apply that everyone has to follow.
We have to address all this.
We do.
We have to figure out tomorrow and the next day, and really, what is the future of America? America's sovereignty is hanging in the balance. We say that often.
It's hard, but necessary.
And so is freedom, because all of this really, the vote, everything. I mean, this was all intentional, an open border. And now we're pulling it back. We're fixing it. And thank God to President Trump and Tom and all these people that are working so hard on the border. Thank you, Debbie, for joining us. And everybody, the name of your show again?
America Can We Talk, and you can find it at americacanwetalk.org and on Twitter at Debbie Can We Talk.
All right, Debbie, we did talk. All right. Thanks, Jillian, again for joining us. Thank Kimberly and all to our moms for joining us here in the Mom View. And again, you can find us at themomview.com. Please check us out on the website there. We will love your feedback and all the socials at The Real Mom View. All right. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all.